Hello, friends. Are you ready to explore the fascinating world of The Karate Kid? Released on June 11, 2010, this film has sparked endless discussions, and today, we're bringing you all the hidden gems, stunning details, and unforgettable moments. If you enjoy this deep dive, be sure to hit that like button. It really helps our channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more exciting movie explorations. Let's jump right in and uncover the magic together. From the very first moments, The Karate Kid pulls us into a story of displacement, resilience, and self-discovery. We meet Dre Parker, a young boy uprooted from his familiar life in Detroit and dropped into the bustling, overwhelming world of Beijing. The film smartly uses this culture shock to place us directly in Dre's shoes. The towering buildings, unfamiliar language, and social customs immediately establish a sense of isolation, making his emotional struggle feel authentic and deeply relatable. This isn't just a story about learning to fight. It's about learning how to stand when the world feels stacked against you. Dre's journey takes a painful turn when he becomes the target of relentless bullying from Chong, a highly trained kung fu student whose discipline has curdled into cruelty. What makes these confrontations so compelling is their imbalance. Dre isn't just weaker. He's unprepared, alone, and emotionally vulnerable. Each defeat feels earned, reinforcing the idea that strength isn't something you're born with, but something you build. The film doesn't rush this process, allowing the audience to feel Dre's frustration, fear, and quiet determination. Enter Mr. Han, portrayed with remarkable restraint and depth by Jackie Chan. Unlike the eccentric mentor many expect, Mr. Han is reserved, haunted, and profoundly human. His pain lingers beneath the surface, revealed slowly through subtle gestures and powerful silence. This emotional weight elevates the mentor-student relationship into something far more meaningful. Mr. Han doesn't just teach Dre how to fight. He teaches him how to focus, how to endure, and how to heal. The training sequences are where the film truly shines. Set against breathtaking Chinese landscapes, these moments transform discipline into poetry. Every movement has purpose, every repetition a lesson in patience and balance. The iconic jacket on, jacket off routine cleverly mirrors the classic training style while grounding it in kung fu philosophy. What seems monotonous gradually reveals its brilliance, reinforcing the film's core message. Mastery is born from persistence, not shortcuts. One of the film's most touching elements is its respect for culture. By shifting the setting to China and focusing on kung fu rather than karate, the story embraces a broader worldview. The Great Wall sequence, in particular, is both visually stunning and thematically powerful. It symbolizes endurance, history, and the quiet strength that comes from standing firm over time, values that mirror Dre's own growth. As the tournament approaches, tension builds naturally. Dre isn't suddenly invincible. His injuries, doubts, and fears remain very real, making each victory feel earned rather than convenient. The final competition is not just a physical test, but a moral one. Dre must choose between fighting with anger or fighting with honor, and this choice defines his transformation more than any kick or punch ever could. The climax delivers one of the most memorable moments in modern sports cinema. The final move isn't just a spectacle. It's a culmination of every lesson Dre has learned. Balance, control, courage, and respect all converge in a single, breathtaking instant. It's not about defeating an opponent. It's about conquering fear and proving to oneself that growth is possible. What makes The Karate Kid endure is its emotional sincerity. Beneath the martial arts and competition lies a heartfelt story about grief, adaptation, and mentorship. The bond between Dre and Mr. Han becomes the film's emotional backbone, reminding us that true teachers don't create copies of themselves. They help others discover who they are meant to be. By the time the credits roll, The Karate Kid leaves us with more than a triumphant ending. It leaves us with a reminder that strength comes from discipline, compassion, and perseverance. It tells us that even in unfamiliar places, with patience and guidance, we can find our footing and rise stronger than before. And that, friends, is the true magic of this unforgettable film. Released on June 11, 2010, The Karate Kid arrived at a time when audiences were hungry for stories that blended heart, spectacle, and meaning. While its title immediately evoked memories of the beloved 1984 classic, this reimagining chose a bold new direction, transporting the story across continents and generations while preserving the emotional core that made the original unforgettable. From the moment the film opens, it becomes clear that this is not simply a remake designed to trade on nostalgia. Instead, it is a thoughtful reinvention that invites viewers into a familiar story told through a fresh cultural lens, offering new themes, deeper emotional stakes, and breathtaking visuals that elevate it beyond expectations. At its heart, The Karate Kid is a story about change, sudden, unwanted, and overwhelming change. The film introduces us to Dre Parker, a young boy whose life is abruptly uprooted when his mother's career forces them to leave Detroit and move to Beijing. This relocation is more than a change of address. It is a complete disruption of Dre's sense of identity. The crowded streets, towering buildings, unfamiliar language, and strict social customs of China are portrayed with immersive detail, making the audience feel the same sense of disorientation that Dre experiences. This fish-out-of-water setup immediately grounds the film in emotional realism, allowing viewers to connect with Dre not just as a character, but as a reflection of their own moments of insecurity and fear. What sets this film apart early on is its patience. Rather than rushing into action, it takes time to explore Dre's loneliness and vulnerability. His struggles at school are not exaggerated for spectacle. They are quiet, persistent, and deeply uncomfortable. When he becomes the target of bullying by Chang and his group of kung fu-trained classmates, the conflict feels painfully real. These antagonists are not cartoon villains, but disciplined students whose skills are being misused, raising questions about the difference between learning a craft and understanding its philosophy. Every confrontation builds tension, reinforcing the imbalance between Dre's fear and his opponent's confidence. As the story unfolds, the film carefully layers suspense by hinting at transformation without revealing how it will occur. Dre wants to escape his situation, but there is no obvious solution. His attempts to fit in fail, his confidence erodes, and even his brief moments of happiness, such as his friendship with Mei, feel fragile and easily threatened. This emotional uncertainty keeps viewers engaged, wondering not just how Dre will learn to defend himself, but whether he will find a sense of belonging at all. The arrival of Mr. Han marks a turning point that reshapes the film's emotional and thematic direction. Portrayed by Jackie Chan in one of his most restrained and powerful performances, Mr. Han is a mentor unlike any other in the genre. Gone is the playful eccentricity audiences might expect. Instead, we are presented with a quiet, guarded man carrying visible grief beneath his calm exterior. The film reveals his past slowly, through subtle moments and haunting silences, allowing suspense to build around his character as much as around the plot itself. This choice adds unexpected depth, transforming the mentor-student relationship into a bond forged through shared pain and understanding. What truly makes The Karate Kid worth a deep dive is how it uses martial arts not as an end, but as a language for growth. The training sequences are deliberate and visually striking, unfolding in some of China's most iconic and awe-inspiring locations. Each exercise initially appears simple, even tedious, but gradually reveals its purpose. The film invites the audience to learn alongside Dre, turning repetition into revelation. These moments are as much about mental discipline as physical skill, reinforcing the idea that true strength comes from balance, patience, and respect. As Dre's training progresses, the narrative weaves together multiple layers of tension. There is the looming threat of the Kung Fu tournament, the unresolved conflict with Chang, the strict teachings of Master Li, and the emotional weight carried by Mr. Han. The film skillfully teases future confrontations without giving too much away, maintaining suspense by constantly reminding viewers of what Dre stands to lose, not just physically, but emotionally. Each step forward is accompanied by doubt, making his progress feel earned rather than inevitable. Visually, the film distinguishes itself through its cinematography, which captures both the grandeur and intimacy of its setting. From the vastness of the Great Wall to the quiet serenity of traditional courtyards, the imagery reinforces the film's themes of endurance and inner peace. These visuals are not merely decorative. They serve as silent storytellers, reflecting Dre's internal journey from chaos to clarity. The contrast between crowded urban spaces and tranquil training environments mirrors his struggle to find calm within himself. The plot builds toward the tournament with careful restraint, ensuring that the climax feels meaningful rather than predictable. By the time Dre steps onto the mat, the audience understands what is at stake on a deeper level. This is not simply about winning a competition. It is about confronting fear, overcoming self-doubt, and choosing honor over anger. The film teases moments of potential failure and injury, keeping viewers on edge and subverting expectations about how and when victory might come. Standout performances play a crucial role in the film's lasting impact. Jaden Smith delivers a raw and emotionally honest portrayal of Dre, capturing the awkwardness, frustration, and resilience of a boy forced to grow up too fast. His performance anchors the story, making Dre's victories and setbacks feel personal. Jackie Chan's portrayal of Mr. Han, meanwhile, adds unexpected gravity, proving that strength can be expressed through stillness as powerfully as through action. Their chemistry forms the emotional backbone of the film, transforming what could have been a simple sports narrative into a story about healing and mentorship. Audiences were drawn to The Karate Kid because it offered familiarity without complacency. It honored the spirit of the original while expanding its scope, embracing cultural exchange and emotional complexity. The decision to shift the focus from karate to kung fu was more than a technical change. It symbolized the film's broader message about adaptation and respect for tradition. This cultural authenticity resonated with viewers, making the story feel grounded and sincere rather than superficial. The film also captured attention through its balance of suspense and inspiration. It teased moments of triumph without revealing their outcome, encouraging viewers to stay engaged not just for the action, but for the emotional payoff. Every challenge Dre faces feels like a test of character rather than just skill, and this emphasis on inner growth gives the film a universal appeal. Whether viewers are drawn to martial arts, coming-of-age stories, or character-driven drama, the film offers something meaningful to hold on to. As the story moves toward its conclusion, The Karate, released on June 11, 2010, The Karate Kid stepped into cinemas carrying the weight of legacy and expectation, yet emerged as something unexpectedly heartfelt, visually striking, and emotionally resonant. At first glance, the title alone seemed to promise a familiar story, one of underdogs, discipline, and triumph through perseverance. But as the film unfolds, it becomes clear that this is not merely a retelling meant to echo past glory. Instead, it is a reimagining that broadens the story's emotional and cultural horizons, transforming a well-known premise into a deeply immersive experience that speaks to change, identity, and the quiet strength found in patience. From its opening moments, the film establishes an atmosphere of transition and uncertainty. The story begins in Detroit, where young Dre Parker lives a modest but familiar life with his mother. When her career suddenly requires them to move halfway across the world to Beijing, the shift feels abrupt and disorienting, not just for Dre, but for the audience as well. This relocation is more than a narrative device. It is the emotional engine of the film. The unfamiliar environment, the language barrier, and the cultural differences are presented not as background details, but as constant pressures shaping Dre's internal struggle. This immediate sense of displacement is what sets the film apart, grounding its story in emotional realism long before martial arts ever enter the frame. What makes The Karate Kid especially worthy of a deep dive is how carefully it builds empathy. The film does not rush into conflict or action. Instead, it allows viewers to sit with Dre's loneliness, to feel the weight of being the outsider in a place where every gesture and word feels like a test. School becomes a battlefield of social uncertainty, and the streets of Beijing, bustling and alive, feel simultaneously beautiful and intimidating. This slow burn draws audiences in, encouraging them to invest emotionally before the story escalates. The tension sharpens when Dre becomes the target of Chang and his group of kung fu-trained classmates. These encounters are not framed as exaggerated showdowns, but as frighteningly realistic moments of imbalance. Dre is smaller, less experienced, and emotionally vulnerable, and the film does not shy away from showing the consequences of that disparity. Each confrontation leaves him more shaken, raising the stakes not just physically, but psychologically. This approach gives the story a suspenseful edge, as viewers begin to wonder how Dre could possibly overcome such overwhelming odds. Amid this growing tension, moments of warmth and connection appear just often enough to keep hope alive. Dre's friendship with Mei introduces a gentler rhythm into the narrative, offering glimpses of normalcy and joy. Their interactions are subtle and sincere, highlighting Dre's longing for belonging. Yet even these moments are tinged with uncertainty, as cultural expectations and social pressures threaten to pull them apart. The film uses this emotional push and pull to maintain suspense, keeping audiences invested not only in the outcome of conflicts, but in the fate of these fragile connections. The arrival of Mr. Han marks a pivotal shift in tone and direction. Played with remarkable restraint by Jackie Chan, Mr. Han is introduced not as a flamboyant mentor, but as a quiet, guarded maintenance man whose presence feels almost ghost-like. His initial intervention in Dre's life is sudden and decisive, immediately altering the power dynamics of the story. Yet the film resists turning him into a simple savior figure. Instead, it gradually reveals his depth, allowing his past to surface through carefully placed moments of silence, sorrow, and reflection. This mentor-student relationship is one of the film's defining strengths and a key reason it captivated audiences. Mr. Han's guidance extends far beyond physical training. His lessons are rooted in discipline, focus, and emotional control, and the film takes its time showing how these principles are instilled. The training sequences are deliberately repetitive, even frustrating at first, mirroring Dre's own skepticism. But as patterns begin to emerge, both Dre and the audience realize that these seemingly mundane tasks are building something far greater than muscle memory. They are shaping mindset, resilience, and self-respect. Visually, these moments are elevated by the film's stunning use of location. China is not merely a backdrop. It is an active participant in the story. From quiet courtyards to expansive mountain landscapes, the environments reflect the internal transformation taking place. One particularly striking sequence set along the Great Wall stands as a symbolic centerpiece, representing endurance, history, and the long path toward mastery. These visuals linger in the mind, reinforcing the idea that growth is not instantaneous, but built stone by stone over time. As Dre's training progresses, the narrative carefully weaves together multiple threads of suspense. There is the looming Kung Fu tournament, the unresolved conflict with Chang, the strict and unforgiving philosophy of Master Li, and the emotional scars carried by Mr. Han. The film hints at future confrontations without revealing their outcomes, creating a steady undercurrent of anticipation. Each improvement in Dre's ability is accompanied by doubt and risk, reminding viewers that progress does not guarantee safety. What truly distinguishes The Karate Kid is its commitment to emotional honesty. Dre is not portrayed as a prodigy who quickly masters his craft. He struggles, fails, and questions himself repeatedly. Injuries and fear are treated seriously, adding a sense of vulnerability that heightens suspense. When setbacks occur, they feel earned rather than manufactured, making each small victory resonate more deeply. The performances play a crucial role in sustaining this emotional engagement. Jaden Smith delivers a raw and believable portrayal of Dre, capturing the awkwardness, frustration, and determination of a child forced to navigate adult challenges. His performance anchors the film, ensuring that the audience experiences each triumph and setback alongside him. Jackie Chan, meanwhile, offers one of his most nuanced performances, trading exuberance for quiet intensity. His portrayal of grief and restraint adds layers to the story, transforming Mr. Han into a figure of profound humanity rather than mere authority. As the story builds toward the tournament, the film's pacing tightens, and the suspense becomes more pronounced. The audience understands that this event represents more than a competition. It is the culmination of Dre's emotional and physical journey, a moment where every lesson, every failure, and every act of perseverance will be tested. The film teases potential outcomes with careful precision, hinting at injury, defeat, and moral compromise without revealing which path will be taken. The tournament itself is staged with a sense of gravity and respect. Each match feels consequential, and the choreography emphasizes control and intention rather than spectacle alone. The presence of Chang and Master Li looms large, adding psychological tension to every exchange. The film continually asks whether victory achieved through aggression is truly victory at all, inviting viewers to reflect on the values being tested. When the story reaches its climax, it does so with a balance of restraint and emotional payoff. The final moments are charged with anticipation, drawing together the film's central themes of balance, courage, and self-belief. Rather than relying on excess, the resolution finds power in simplicity, allowing the meaning of Dre's journey to speak for itself. The result is a conclusion that feels earned, satisfying, and emotionally resonant. Audiences were drawn to The Karate Kid because it offered something rare, familiarity infused with sincerity. While the framework of the story was recognizable, its execution felt fresh and culturally rich. The decision to shift the focus from karate to kung fu was not merely technical, but thematic, underscoring the film's emphasis on respect, tradition, and adaptability. This authenticity resonated with viewers across generations, bridging nostalgia and discovery. The film's ability to balance suspense with introspection is another reason it captured attention. It invited viewers to stay not just for the action, but for the emotional insight woven into every scene. Each interaction, each training exercise, and each confrontation carried symbolic weight, rewarding those willing to look beneath the surface. The story encouraged reflection on resilience, mentorship, and the courage required to face unfamiliar worlds. Ultimately, The Karate Kid stands as a testament to the enduring power of character-driven storytelling. It reminds audiences that growth is rarely loud or immediate, and that true strength often emerges from patience, humility, and connection. By blending a suspenseful plot, standout performances, and breathtaking visuals with a deeply human message, the film carved out a lasting place in modern cinema. This is why the movie continues to invite exploration long after its release. Beneath its accessible premise lies a layered narrative filled with subtle emotional cues, symbolic imagery, and thoughtful cultural perspective. For viewers willing to stay and uncover its secrets, The Karate Kid offers far more than a tale of martial arts triumph. It offers a story about finding balance in chaos, purpose in discipline, and confidence in the face of fear. A journey that feels just as powerful today as it did when it first captivated audiences on June 11, 2010. As the story moves into its second half, The Karate Kid deepens both its emotional weight and narrative momentum, allowing every thread introduced earlier to tighten with purpose. Dre's training under Mr. Han is no longer tentative or uncertain. It becomes the central force shaping his transformation. Yet the film is careful not to frame this growth as linear or easy. Progress is accompanied by setbacks, and confidence is constantly challenged by fear, reminding the audience that change is rarely comfortable. The turning point arrives when Mr. Han confronts the source of Dre's suffering directly. What initially seems like an act of simple protection unfolds into a moment charged with consequence. Mr. Han's visit to the Kung Fu school, where he faces Master Li, is quiet but formidable. There are no explosive fights or dramatic speeches, only an exchange steeped in tension and philosophy. Master Li's rigid belief that weakness deserves punishment clashes sharply with Mr. Han's emphasis on discipline balanced by compassion. This confrontation plants the seed for the tournament, a formal arena where conflicts of ideology, not just physical skill, will collide. The agreement feels less like a solution and more like a looming test, setting the stage for everything that follows. From this moment forward, the narrative carries a sense of inevitability. Dre knows he must compete, not because he seeks revenge, but because it is the only path that allows him to stand on equal ground. The decision weighs heavily on him, and the film lingers on this internal conflict. Competing means risking humiliation, injury, and failure in front of peers who already doubt him. Yet choosing not to compete would mean retreating into fear. This dilemma becomes one of the story's emotional highs, as Dre begins to understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. The training intensifies, but the focus subtly shifts. Physical techniques become more refined, Yet Mr. Han increasingly emphasizes mental preparation. Balance, breathing, and awareness take center stage, reinforcing the idea that the tournament will test Dre's character as much as his body. These scenes are infused with a quiet urgency, as if both mentor and student understand that time is running out. The repetition that once frustrated Dre now feels grounding, a source of stability amid mounting pressure. Interwoven with this preparation is a deeper exploration of Mr. Han's past. In one of the film's most emotionally charged moments, Dre witnesses Mr. Han confronting his grief alone, surrounded by memories of the family he lost. This revelation reframes everything that came before. Mr. Han's discipline, restraint, and insistence on control are no longer abstract principles, but survival mechanisms forged through tragedy. This shared vulnerability strengthens their bond, transforming their relationship from teacher and student into something closer to family. It is a moment that resonates deeply, reminding viewers that guidance often comes from those who have endured the greatest pain. As the tournament approaches, external pressures begin to mount. Dre's relationship with Mei grows strained under the weight of parental expectations and cultural boundaries. These moments are understated but significant, reinforcing the film's theme of isolation. Even as Dre becomes stronger, he risks losing the few connections that made his new life bearable. This emotional tension adds another layer of stakes to the competition. Victory will not magically resolve these conflicts, but it represents Dre's attempt to define himself on his own terms. When the day of the tournament arrives, the film shifts into a heightened rhythm without sacrificing emotional clarity. The arena is filled with disciplined competitors, each representing years of training and institutional support that Dre lacks. The visual contrast is striking. Dre's relative inexperience set against the polished confidence of his opponents. Yet instead of framing him as hopelessly outmatched, the film presents him as focused, grounded, and quietly determined. Mr. Han's presence on the sidelines becomes a steadying force, his calm demeanor a counterbalance to the intensity of the surroundings. Each match unfolds with deliberate pacing, allowing tension to build naturally. Dre's early successes are modest, hard-earned, and often surprising. The choreography emphasizes control and precision rather than flashy dominance, reinforcing the lessons he has learned. The audience feels every impact, every stumble, every moment of hesitation. When Dre falters, the fear of regression looms large, creating suspense that extends beyond the outcome of any single fight. The narrative reaches a critical emotional high when Dre faces injury. This moment threatens to unravel everything he has worked toward. Pain becomes both a physical and psychological barrier, testing his resolve and his understanding of Mr. Han's teachings. The film does not rush through this crisis. Instead, it lingers on Dre's doubt, his fear of being exposed as unworthy, and his temptation to give in. This vulnerability is one of the story's most powerful elements, reminding viewers that perseverance often requires confronting the limits of one's own endurance. Mr. Han's guidance during this moment is subtle but transformative. Rather than urging Dre to push through pain blindly, he reminds him of balance between strength and caution, ambition and self-respect. This advice reframes the competition, shifting its purpose from winning at all costs to honoring the journey that led there. Dre's decision to continue competing is no longer about proving others wrong, but about staying true to himself. As the tournament progresses, the film brings its narrative threads together with increasing precision. Cheng's presence looms ever larger, not just as a formidable opponent, but as a mirror of what Dre could become if anger were allowed to dominate discipline. Cheng's own conflict is hinted at through brief, telling moments, hesitation, frustration, flashes of doubt, suggesting that he, too, is trapped by expectations and fear. This subtle complexity elevates the rivalry, transforming it from a simple good versus evil dynamic into a clash of philosophies shaped by mentorship. The climax builds steadily, each scene tightening the emotional and thematic stakes. By the time Dre faces Cheng, the audience understands that the outcome will resonate far beyond the mat. The match is charged with tension, amplified by Master Li's harsh commands and Mr. Han's quiet encouragement. Dre's injury becomes a focal point, a constant reminder of his vulnerability. Every movement feels precarious, and the film skillfully uses silence and pacing to heighten suspense. What makes this climactic sequence so impactful is its restraint. Rather than overwhelming the audience with spectacle, the film focuses on intention and choice. Dre's struggle is as much internal as external. He must decide whether to fight with fear, anger, or balance. The teachings that once seemed abstract now crystallize into instinct, guiding his actions in subtle ways. This convergence of lesson and action is where the narrative truly comes together, rewarding the patience of both the character and the audience. The final moments of the match unfold with breathtaking simplicity. The decisive action is not just a test of skill, but a culmination of everything Dre has learned about focus, courage, and self-belief. The impact of this moment resonates not because of its technical execution, but because of what it represents. A boy who once felt powerless now standing firmly in control of himself. The victory, when it comes, feels earned not through dominance, but through discipline. The resolution that follows is quietly profound. Cheng's reaction hints at the possibility of change, subtly challenging the rigid worldview imposed by Master Li. Mr. Han's pride is understated but deeply felt, conveyed through a look rather than words. Dre's sense of accomplishment is tempered by humility, reinforcing the film's message that true success lies in growth rather than conquest. As the story draws to a close, the film allows its emotional threads to settle naturally. Dre's journey from isolation to self-assurance feels complete, yet open-ended, suggesting that growth is an ongoing process rather than a final destination. His relationship with Mr. Han stands as the heart of the narrative, a testament to the power of mentorship rooted in empathy and respect. The cultural barriers that once seemed insurmountable now feel navigable, not because they have disappeared, but because Dre has found the confidence to face them. In its final scenes, The Karate Kid reflects on the journey it has taken the audience through, tying together its themes with quiet elegance. The balance between strength and compassion, discipline and freedom, fear and courage is reaffirmed without heavy-handed exposition. Every narrative element, training, conflict, mentorship, and setting, fits seamlessly into a cohesive whole, reinforcing the story's emotional truth. The second half of the film succeeds because it honors the groundwork laid earlier, allowing character development and thematic exploration to drive the climax rather than overshadow it. Each twist and emotional high feels like a natural progression rather than a forced escalation. The result is a resolution that lingers, not because it surprises, but because it resonates. At the heart of The Karate Kid lies a carefully woven tapestry of characters whose emotional journeys give the film its lasting power. While the story is framed around martial arts and competition, it is ultimately driven by human connection, internal conflict, and personal growth. Each character, whether central or supporting, contributes to a narrative that feels lived in and emotionally grounded. Rather than existing as archetypes, they evolve naturally over the course of the film, shaped by circumstance, choice, and the influence they have on one another. Dre Parker stands as the emotional core of the story, and his journey is defined by vulnerability as much as by resilience. Introduced as an ordinary boy navigating an extraordinary upheaval, Dre's motivations are rooted in a desire for stability and belonging. His move from Detroit to Beijing strips away his familiar identity, leaving him unsure of who he is in a world that feels hostile and indifferent. This uncertainty manifests in small, telling behaviors, hesitation in social settings, flashes of anger, moments of self-doubt, that make his character feel authentic. Dre is not driven by a hunger for dominance or revenge, but by a simple need to feel safe and seen. As the story progresses, Dre's arc unfolds gradually. His early encounters with bullying expose his lack of confidence and physical preparedness, but more importantly, they reveal his emotional fragility. Each defeat reinforces his belief that he does not belong, deepening his isolation. Yet beneath this vulnerability lies a quiet determination. Dre's willingness to show up, even when fear threatens to overwhelm him, becomes the foundation of his growth. This inner strength, rather than raw talent, is what ultimately carries him forward. Jaden Smith's performance plays a crucial role in making Dre's journey resonate. He brings a raw honesty to the role, capturing the awkwardness of adolescence without exaggeration. His emotional reactions feel spontaneous and sincere, allowing audiences to connect with Dre's fear, frustration, and tentative hope. Smith's physical transformation throughout the film mirrors his emotional one, subtly shifting from guarded tension to focused control. This balance between emotional openness and emerging confidence is what makes Dre's arc feel earned rather than manufactured. Opposite Dre stands Mr. Han, a character defined by restraint and quiet intensity. From his first appearance, Mr. Han carries an air of solitude, his presence marked by a stillness that contrasts sharply with the chaos surrounding him. His motivation is not immediately clear, and the film deliberately withholds key details of his past, allowing curiosity and empathy to build organically. When he intervenes in Dre's life, it is not out of obligation, but recognition, an understanding of pain that needs no explanation. Mr. Han's arc is one of healing rather than transformation. Unlike Dre, he does not seek growth so much as resolution. His teachings are deeply influenced by personal loss, and every lesson he imparts carries the weight of experience. Discipline, balance, and control are not abstract ideals for him. They are principles forged through tragedy. This emotional depth gives his mentorship authenticity, elevating it beyond instruction into something deeply personal. Jackie Chan's portrayal of Mr. Han is a defining element of the film. Known for his physicality and comedic timing, Chan instead delivers a performance rooted in subtlety and introspection. His grief is expressed through silence, posture, and fleeting expressions rather than dialogue. This restraint makes Mr. Han's moments of vulnerability all the more powerful, allowing audiences to feel the depth of his loss without overt exposition. Chan's ability to convey warmth and authority simultaneously transforms Mr. Han into a mentor figure who feels both formidable and compassionate. The bond between Dre and Mr. Han forms the emotional backbone of the film. Their relationship evolves naturally, built on mutual respect rather than immediate trust. Early interactions are marked by skepticism and frustration, as Dre struggles to understand the purpose behind Mr. Han's methods. Over time, shared experiences and revealed vulnerabilities bridge the gap between them. This connection is not idealized. It is grounded in patience, miscommunication, and gradual understanding. By the film's conclusion, their bond feels less like that of teacher and student, and more like a chosen family formed through shared resilience. Dre's mother, Sherry Parker, plays a vital role in shaping his emotional landscape. As a single parent navigating a new culture and demanding career, she embodies the pressures of responsibility and sacrifice. Her motivation is rooted in providing stability and opportunity for her son, even when it means uprooting their lives. This choice, though made with love, creates distance between them, as Dre struggles to articulate his fear and resentment. Taraji P. Henson brings warmth and realism to Sherry, portraying her as caring yet imperfect. Her concern for Dre's safety sometimes borders on overprotection, reflecting her own anxiety about their unfamiliar surroundings. This dynamic adds depth to the story, highlighting the often unspoken tension between parental intention and a child's emotional needs. Sherry's arc is subtle but meaningful, as she learns to trust Dre's growth while maintaining her role as his anchor. Mei serves as both a gentle counterpoint and an emotional catalyst for Dre. Her character represents the possibility of connection in an otherwise isolating environment. Intelligent, disciplined, and quietly expressive, Mei is motivated by a sense of duty and respect for her family's expectations. Her passion for music mirrors Dre's journey in martial arts, emphasizing themes of practice, patience, and personal expression. Won Han's performance infuses Mei with sincerity and poise. Her interactions with Dre are marked by understated chemistry, relying on shared glances and moments of quiet understanding rather than grand gestures. Mei's presence encourages Dre to see beyond survival, reminding him of the joy and creativity that still exist within him. At the same time, the limitations placed on her by cultural expectations add emotional complexity, underscoring the sacrifices demanded by discipline. Chang, the film's primary antagonist, is portrayed with a degree of nuance that prevents him from becoming a simple villain. His motivation is rooted in a rigid belief system reinforced by his mentor, Master Li. Trained to equate strength with dominance, Chung channels his discipline into aggression, masking his own insecurity and fear of failure. His hostility toward Dre stems less from personal malice and more from a worldview that sees weakness as unacceptable. Jinwei Wang's performance captures this internal conflict through controlled intensity. Cheng's confidence often feels performative, cracking in moments of frustration or hesitation. These glimpses of vulnerability suggest a character trapped by expectations rather than driven purely by cruelty. This complexity adds depth to the central conflict, transforming the rivalry into a clash of philosophies shaped by mentorship. Master Li stands as the embodiment of uncompromising discipline taken to an extreme. His influence looms large over the narrative, shaping Chung and the other students under his guidance. Motivated by a belief in absolute strength and obedience, Master Li views compassion as one of the most rewarding aspects of The Karate Kid lies beneath its straightforward narrative, hidden in the quiet details, visual choices, and subtle callbacks that reveal how thoughtfully the film was constructed. While the surface story follows a familiar coming-of-age arc, the deeper layers are rich with foreshadowing, symbolism, and respectful nods to cinematic history, martial arts philosophy, and even the legacy of the original franchise. These elements are never presented loudly. Instead, they are woven into the fabric of the film, waiting patiently for attentive viewers to notice and appreciate them. From the very beginning, the film quietly establishes its themes through visual storytelling. Dre's move from Detroit to Beijing is framed not just as a geographical shift, but as a symbolic crossing from familiarity into uncertainty. Early shots emphasize verticality, towering apartment buildings, endless stairwells, and crowded streets, creating a sense of imbalance and smallness around Dre. This visual motif subtly foreshadows his internal struggle. He is constantly looking up, dwarfed by his environment, until later in the film when his posture, framing, and camera angles shift, reflecting the balance and grounding he gradually develops through training. The choice of China as the setting is itself layered with meaning. Beyond offering a fresh cultural backdrop, the film uses historical and architectural landmarks as symbolic anchors. The Great Wall sequence, for instance, is more than a breathtaking visual set piece. The wall represents endurance, patience, and the idea that true strength is built over time. This symbolism mirrors Dre's training philosophy perfectly. The wall was not constructed in a single moment of brilliance, but stone by stone through persistence, an idea that echoes Mr. Han's lessons about repetition and discipline. Sharp-eyed viewers may notice how Dre is framed walking along the wall, small but steady, reinforcing the idea that progress does not require dominance, only consistency. One of the most subtle nods to the original Karate Kid films comes through structure rather than direct reference. While the famous wax on, wax off mantra is not repeated, its spirit lives on in the jacket on, jacket off routine. The brilliance of this callback lies in how it adapts rather than imitates. The task initially appears mundane, even frustrating, mirroring the audience's expectations based on the earlier films. Only later does its purpose become clear, transforming repetition into revelation. This is not just an Easter egg for longtime fans, but a commentary on the idea that wisdom often hides in simplicity. Mr. Han's character is filled with symbolic detail, many of which are easy to miss on a first viewing. His constant maintenance of the apartment complex, fixing, cleaning, repairing, mirrors his internal desire to restore balance within himself. One particularly poignant detail is his car collection, each vehicle meticulously cared for yet rarely driven. These cars serve as emotional time capsules, frozen reminders of a past he cannot move forward from. When Mr. Han finally destroys one of the cars in a moment of grief, it is not an act of rage, but a symbolic release, a shattering of emotional stagnation that allows healing to begin. This moment quietly foreshadows his ability to open up to Dre and step back into a mentoring role with renewed purpose. Foreshadowing is also embedded in Dre's early failures. In his first encounters with Chung, Dre relies on instinct and panic, leading to predictable defeat. The film subtly plants the seeds of his eventual success by showing brief flashes of adaptability, small moments where he watches, learns, and adjusts. These moments are easy to overlook because they are overshadowed by his fear, but they signal that Dre's strength will come from awareness rather than aggression. Later, when he applies these observations in the tournament, the payoff feels organic, as though the story has been quietly preparing the audience all along. The relationship between Dre and Maying is rich with symbolic parallels. Maying's dedication to violin practice mirrors Dre's martial arts training, reinforcing the film's broader message about discipline as a form of self-expression. In several scenes, their practice sessions are cross-cut or visually echoed, subtly connecting music and martial arts as parallel paths toward mastery. This parallel also foreshadows Dre's understanding that Kung Fu is not merely about fighting, but about harmony, rhythm, and control. Music becomes an unspoken metaphor for balance, reinforcing the idea that different disciplines share the same core philosophy. Cheng's characterization contains its own hidden layers. His uniform is always immaculate, his movements precise, yet his expressions often betray tension and insecurity. Costume and blocking subtly emphasize his rigidity, visually contrasting N. with Dre's growing fluidity. This contrast foreshadows the ideological clash at the heart of the film. Chung represents discipline without compassion, structure without understanding. His eventual hesitation during the tournament is not a sudden change, but the culmination of these visual cues, suggesting that his confidence has always been fragile beneath the surface. Master Li's presence, though limited, is loaded with symbolic weight. His repeated command to show no mercy is deliberately stark, functioning as a narrative counterpoint to Mr. Han's philosophy. The film quietly critiques this mindset by framing Master Li in harsh lighting and rigid compositions, making his scenes feel oppressive rather than empowering. This visual language reinforces the idea that authority without empathy leads to imbalance, a theme that resonates throughout the story. There are also subtle pop culture and cinematic references embedded within the film. Jackie Chan's casting itself operates as a metatextual Easter egg. Known globally for blending martial arts with humor and heart, his subdued performance subverts audience expectations, inviting viewers to see him not as a spectacle, but as a vessel for emotional depth. Longtime fans may notice how certain movements in Mr. Han's demonstrations echo Chan's earlier work, slowed down and stripped of flash, as if reflecting the wisdom of age and experience. The tournament scenes are filled with quiet details that reward attentive viewers. Background competitors mirror Dre's early mistakes, reinforcing how far he has come without explicitly stating it. The camera often lingers on Dre's breathing before matches, a subtle reminder of Mr. Han's emphasis on inner calm. These moments of stillness serve as visual punctuation, reinforcing the idea that control begins before action. Even the final climactic moment carries layers of symbolism. Dre's stance and posture reflect not just physical training, but emotional alignment. He is centered, balanced, and composed, visually echoing the lessons imparted throughout the film. The crowd noise fades just enough to emphasize focus, subtly placing the audience inside Dre's perspective. This sensory shift reinforces the theme that true victory is internal before it is external. Small environmental details also contribute to the film's depth. The repeated presence of stairs, bridges, and thresholds symbolizes transition and growth. Dre is often shown pausing at these spaces early on, uncertain and hesitant. Later, he crosses them with confidence, signaling his internal progression without the need for dialogue. These visual metaphors quietly chart his journey from fear to self-assurance. What makes these hidden details so effective is how seamlessly they blend into the narrative. None of them demand attention or disrupt the flow of the story. Instead, they enrich it, rewarding viewers who look closely and think deeply. The film trusts its audience to connect these dots intuitively, allowing meaning to emerge organically rather than through exposition. In the end, The Karate Kid reveals itself as a film deeply aware of its own legacy and purpose. Its Easter eggs are not gimmicks, but extensions of its themes, reinforcing ideas of balance, respect, and growth. Every symbolic gesture, visual motif, and quiet callback serves to deepen the emotional resonance of the story. These hidden layers transform the film from a simple coming-of-age tale into a richly textured experience, inviting repeated viewings and fresh discoveries each time. For those willing to pay attention, the magic of The Karate Kid lies not just in what is shown, but in what is quietly suggested, patiently waiting to be seen. Behind every film that feels emotionally authentic on screen lies a long, complex journey behind the camera, and The Karate Kid is no exception. While audiences experienced a polished story of discipline, growth, and resilience, the making of the movie was itself a test of endurance, cultural navigation, and creative risk-taking. The production blended Hollywood storytelling with international filmmaking realities, resulting in a process filled with unexpected challenges, fascinating decisions, and behind-the-scenes moments that quietly shaped the final film in profound ways. One of the most significant creative decisions came before a single frame was shot, relocating the story from the United States to China. This was not merely a visual upgrade or a marketing move, it fundamentally altered how the story would be told. Filming extensively in Beijing and other Chinese locations required navigating language barriers, differing production regulations, and cultural expectations that were unfamiliar to much of the American crew. Securing permissions to film at iconic landmarks, including the Great Wall, involved lengthy negotiations and tight scheduling. These logistical hurdles forced the filmmakers to plan meticulously, often shooting with limited windows of time, which added pressure but also sharpened the film's visual intentionality. The choice to focus on kung fu rather than karate was another pivotal decision that influenced every aspect of production. This shift required extensive consultation with martial arts experts to ensure authenticity. The creative team worked closely with choreographers trained in traditional Chinese martial arts, emphasizing philosophy and form over flashy combat. This approach aligned with the film's themes but demanded patience from both actors and crew. Movements had to feel grounded and disciplined, not exaggerated, which meant longer rehearsal times and careful coordination during filming. Jaden Smith's preparation for the role of Dre Parker became one of the most talked-about aspects of the production. Months before filming began, he underwent an intense training regimen that included daily kung fu practice, strength conditioning, flexibility training, and cultural immersion. This preparation was physically demanding, especially considering his age, and required strict discipline. The filmmakers were determined that his movements look credible on screen, avoiding the heavy reliance on editing or stunt doubles. As a result, many of Dre's fight sequences were performed by Smith himself, lending authenticity to his performance and contributing to the audience's emotional investment in his journey. Jackie Chan's involvement brought both prestige and a unique set of expectations. Known worldwide for his physically daring and often comedic martial arts style, Chan made a conscious decision to portray Mr. Han with restraint and seriousness. This was not initially what some executives envisioned, and there were early discussions about whether audiences would accept Chan in such a subdued role. Chan himself insisted on this approach, believing that the character's emotional depth required subtlety rather than spectacle. His insistence ultimately shaped one of the film's most praised elements, redefining how audiences perceived both the character and the actor. Behind the scenes, Chan also played an informal mentorship role. He often guided younger cast members, particularly Jaden Smith, not just in martial arts techniques but in on-set discipline and professionalism. Crew members have spoken about how Chan emphasized respect for the craft, punctuality, and focus, values that mirrored the film's themes. This off-screen dynamic subtly influenced the tone of the production, blurring the line between fiction and reality in a way that enriched the performances. One of the most emotionally challenging scenes to film involved Mr. Han's confrontation with his past, a moment that required Jackie Chan to tap into profound grief. Unlike many of the film's action-heavy sequences, this scene relied entirely on emotional vulnerability. It was reportedly filmed with minimal crew present to maintain intimacy, and multiple takes were avoided to preserve the rawness of the performance. This choice added to the scene's power, demonstrating how behind-the-scenes restraint can enhance on-screen impact. The young cast faced their own challenges adapting to life and work in China. Long shooting days, cultural differences, and the pressure of carrying a major studio film created a demanding environment. Language barriers occasionally slowed production, requiring translators on set at all times. Rather than seeing this as an obstacle, the filmmakers embraced it as part of the experience, encouraging cast members to engage with the local culture. This immersion influenced performances in subtle ways, adding authenticity to the sense of displacement felt by Dre's character. The film's cinematography presented another set of challenges and triumphs. Capturing Beijing's scale while maintaining an intimate focus on character required careful planning. Crowded urban environments made controlled shooting difficult, often forcing the crew to adapt quickly to changing conditions. Weather also played a role, with sudden shifts affecting lighting and continuity. These unpredictable elements demanded flexibility, and in many cases, the filmmakers incorporated them into the visual language of the film rather than fighting against them. Music played a crucial role in shaping the film's emotional rhythm, and its development involved careful balance. The score needed to support both the cultural setting and the universal themes of growth and perseverance. Composers blended traditional influences with modern orchestration, avoiding clichés while still grounding the story in its environment. This blending mirrored the film's narrative goal of cultural exchange, reinforcing the idea that different traditions can coexist harmoniously. Casting decisions extended beyond the leads and into the supporting roles, each chosen with intention. The actors portraying Chang and Master Li were selected not only for their martial arts ability, but for their capacity to convey discipline and tension through physical presence alone. Their performances were shaped through rehearsal rather than dialogue-heavy direction, allowing body language and expression to communicate ideology. This approach added layers to the antagonists, preventing them from becoming simplistic caricatures. The production was not without controversy. Some viewers and critics questioned the film's title, noting that despite its name, the story focused on kung fu rather than karate. This sparked debates about cultural labeling and marketing choices. The filmmakers acknowledged the irony but defended the decision, explaining that the title served as a bridge to familiarity, while the story itself honored Chinese martial arts traditions. Over time, many audiences came to appreciate the film's respectful portrayal of kung fu, even if the title remained a point of discussion. Another area of conversation involved the film's status as a remake. Skeptics initially doubted whether revisiting such an iconic story was necessary. The creative team addressed this concern by emphasizing reinvention rather than replication. They intentionally avoided recreating iconic scenes shot for shot, choosing instead to echo themes and emotional beats in new contexts. This approach allowed the film to stand on its own while acknowledging its roots, a balance that many remakes struggle to achieve. Financially, the film's international scope played a significant role in its success. Co-produced with Chinese partners, it benefited from a global perspective that influenced both production and distribution. This collaboration was not always seamless, requiring compromise and negotiation, but it ultimately expanded the film's reach and impact. The success of this model demonstrated the potential of cross-cultural partnerships in mainstream cinema, influencing how future projects approached international collaboration. Unexpected moments during filming also left lasting impressions on the cast and crew. Training injuries, though generally minor, were a reminder of the physical demands placed on young performers. Safety protocols were adjusted throughout production to ensure well-being without sacrificing authenticity. These adjustments sometimes required rewriting scenes or rethinking choreography, illustrating how adaptability is essential in filmmaking. One lesser-known fact involves the tournament scenes, which were filmed over several weeks rather than consecutively. Maintaining continuity of emotion and physical condition required careful planning. Actors had to track character progression meticulously, ensuring that fatigue, injury, and confidence levels aligned with the story's timeline. This attention to detail contributed to the tournament's sense of realism, making each match feel like part of a coherent journey rather than isolated spectacle. The film's release itself became part of its story, premiering to a mix of nostalgia-driven expectations and curiosity about its new direction. It quickly sparked conversation. Audiences responded strongly to its emotional core, particularly the mentor-student relationship, while critics debated its place within the legacy of the original film. Over time, appreciation for its sincerity and craftsmanship grew, cementing its identity as more than just a remake. Perhaps the most compelling behind-the-scenes truth about The Karate Kid is how closely its production mirrored its narrative. Just as Dre learns through repetition, patience, and resilience, the filmmakers navigated cultural differences, physical challenges, and creative uncertainty to bring the story to life. The discipline required to coordinate an international production, train young actors, and honor multiple traditions echoes the very lessons the film teaches. In retrospect, the facts surrounding the making of The Karate Kid reveal a film shaped by intention rather than convenience. Every challenge, from logistical hurdles to creative debates, left its mark on the final product. These behind-the-scenes stories deepen appreciation for what appears on screen, reminding viewers that the journey of creation can be as meaningful as the story being told. Far from a straightforward production, The Karate Kid emerged from a process defined by collaboration, risk, and respect, making its success feel not just earned, but thematically fitting. From the earliest stages of development, The Karate Kid was envisioned as more than a simple retelling of a familiar story. The filmmakers set out to craft an experience that felt intimate yet expansive, grounded in emotional truth while elevated by technical precision. Every creative and technical decision, from camera placement to sound design, was made in service of a single goal: to immerse the audience fully in Dre Parker's journey. What emerged was a production process as disciplined and intentional as the martial arts philosophy at the heart of the film. One of the most influential creative choices was the decision to shoot extensively on location in China rather than relying on sets or digital backdrops. This choice immediately shaped the film's visual identity. The crew faced the challenge of working in some of the world's most crowded urban spaces, where controlling the environment was often impossible. Instead of fighting these conditions, the filmmakers embraced them, allowing real crowds, natural light, and ambient sound to become part of the storytelling. This approach added authenticity to the sense of displacement Dre feels, making the environment feel alive rather than staged. Cinematography played a crucial role in expressing character growth. Early scenes often use wider lenses and distant framing, visually isolating Dre within his surroundings. As his confidence grows, the camera gradually moves closer, favoring steadier compositions and more balanced framing. These subtle shifts are rarely noticed consciously, yet they profoundly influence how the audience perceives Dre's transformation. The cinematographer worked closely with the director to ensure that visual language evolved alongside the character, creating a seamless emotional progression. The training sequences presented a unique technical challenge. Martial arts films often rely on rapid cuts and exaggerated choreography to convey intensity, but The Karate Kid took a different approach. The filmmakers favored longer takes and deliberate pacing, allowing movements to unfold naturally. This required precise coordination between actors, camera operators, and choreographers. Any mistake meant restarting the entire take, demanding patience and discipline from everyone involved. The payoff was a sense of realism that grounded the action in character rather than spectacle. Jackie Chan's presence influenced both creative and technical decisions. His deep understanding of martial arts cinema shaped how fights were staged and filmed. Chan advocated for clarity of movement, insisting that the audience should always understand what the character is doing and why. This philosophy led to a more restrained editing style during combat scenes, prioritizing readability over flash. Behind the scenes, Chan often adjusted choreography on the spot, refining movements to better reflect emotional intention rather than technical complexity. Sound design emerged as a quiet but powerful tool in the film's storytelling. Rather than overwhelming scenes with dramatic music or exaggerated effects, the sound team focused on texture and atmosphere. The hum of city life, the echo of footsteps in empty courtyards, and the subtle rhythm of breathing during training sequences all contribute to the film's immersive quality. These details were carefully layered in post-production, ensuring that sound reinforced emotion without drawing attention to itself. Music was integrated with similar restraint. The score avoids melodrama, instead weaving in gently during moments of reflection and swelling only when earned. Composers worked closely with editors to ensure that music felt like a natural extension of the scene rather than an emotional cue imposed from above. This collaboration resulted in transitions that feel organic, allowing silence to carry weight when necessary. In several key moments, the absence of music heightens tension far more effectively than a dramatic score ever could. One of the film's most striking technical feats is its use of natural environments to enhance thematic resonance. Training scenes set against mountains, temples, and historical landmarks required careful logistical planning. Equipment had to be transported to remote locations, often with limited access and strict time constraints. Rather than relying on heavy machinery, the crew favored lightweight rigs that allowed for mobility and adaptability. This choice not only preserved the integrity of the locations, but also enabled more fluid camera movement, capturing the harmony between character and environment. Beneath its accessible story of training and competition, The Karate Kid operates as a layered exploration of identity, resilience, and cultural exchange. What appears on the surface to be a familiar coming-of-age narrative gradually reveals deeper themes that resonate far beyond the confines of the tournament mat. The film's power lies in how seamlessly it weaves symbolism and social commentary into its storytelling, allowing viewers to engage with complex ideas without ever feeling lectured. Every lesson learned, every obstacle faced, and every relationship formed reflects broader truths about growth, belonging, and the values that shape human behavior. At its core, the film is a meditation on displacement and adaptation. Dre Parker's move from Detroit to Beijing is not simply a plot device, but a reflection of a global reality experienced by millions who are uprooted by economic necessity, migration, or opportunity. Dre's struggle to navigate an unfamiliar culture mirrors the emotional experience of immigrants and expatriates, where language barriers, social norms, and subtle exclusions create a constant sense of vulnerability. The film captures this disorientation through quiet moments of isolation rather than overt dramatization, emphasizing how cultural alienation often manifests in subtle, cumulative ways. This theme grounds the story in a relatable social context, making Dre's journey symbolic of anyone trying to find footing in an unfamiliar world. Discipline emerges as another central theme, but the film is careful to present it as a double-edged concept. Through the contrasting philosophies of Mr. Han and Master Li, discipline is framed as either a path to balance or a tool of control. Mr. Han's teachings emphasize harmony between mind and body, suggesting that discipline is most effective when rooted in self-awareness and compassion. In contrast, Master Li's rigid insistence on obedience and aggression reflects a version of discipline stripped of empathy. This opposition serves as a broader commentary on systems of authority, whether in education, parenting, or social institutions, highlighting how structure without humanity can become destructive. Symbolism plays a crucial role in reinforcing these themes, often through visual metaphors that unfold gradually. Balance, one of the film's most prominent ideas, is repeatedly echoed in physical spaces and movements. Staircases, bridges, and thresholds appear throughout the film, symbolizing moments of transition and choice. Early on, Dre hesitates at these boundaries, uncertain and fearful. As his confidence grows, he crosses them with ease, reflecting his internal progression. These recurring visual cues quietly chart his development, turning the environment itself into a storytelling device. The act of training becomes a symbolic language for personal growth. Repetitive exercises, initially perceived as monotonous, reflect the often unglamorous reality of self-improvement. The film suggests that mastery is not achieved through dramatic breakthroughs, but through consistent effort and patience. This message resonates strongly in a world increasingly driven by instant gratification. By portraying growth as gradual and sometimes frustrating, the film offers a subtle critique of contemporary culture's obsession with quick results, advocating instead for perseverance and long-term commitment. The Great Wall stands as one of the film's most powerful symbols, embodying endurance, history, and collective effort. Its presence reinforces the idea that strength is cumulative, built over time rather than achieved in a single moment. The wall's historical significance adds another layer of meaning, connecting Dre's personal journey to a broader human narrative of. The Karate Kid is as much a visual and auditory experience as it is a narrative journey, and its cinematography, sound design, and stylistic choices work in tandem to immerse viewers fully in Dre Parker's transformation. Every camera movement, lighting choice, and editing decision contributes to the storytelling, allowing the audience to feel the emotional rhythm of the film without being consciously aware of the mechanics behind it. By carefully integrating these cinematic techniques, the filmmakers created a visual language that amplifies the themes of discipline, growth, and cross-cultural discovery. From the very first scenes, the cinematography establishes Dre's perspective and emotional state. Wide establishing shots of Beijing's sprawling urban landscapes communicate his sense of smallness and disorientation, emphasizing the cultural and physical distance he has crossed. Crowded streets and towering apartment complexes are framed to dwarf him, creating a visual metaphor for the challenges he faces in an unfamiliar environment. These choices are not accidental. The director and cinematographer collaborated closely to ensure that every frame reinforced Dre's emotional journey, using space and scale to heighten the sense of vulnerability and isolation. Camera angles and movement are used with remarkable subtlety to reflect character development. Early in the film, handheld and slightly shaky shots mirror Dre's unease and lack of control. As he gains confidence and mastery through his training, the camera stabilizes, favoring more composed, symmetrical compositions that convey balance. This evolution is particularly evident during the training sequences. Long tracking shots and fluid camera movements follow Dre's motions, allowing viewers to witness the meticulous repetition and precision that his training demands. By avoiding rapid cuts and overly flashy angles, the filmmakers emphasize the discipline inherent in martial arts, making the visual style itself a reflection of the narrative's core principles. Lighting serves as a powerful storytelling tool, subtly reinforcing mood and theme. The film often employs naturalistic lighting, particularly during outdoor sequences, to maintain authenticity. Early scenes feature cooler, harsher tones, mirroring Dre's discomfort and sense of alienation in his new surroundings. As he becomes more comfortable and begins to internalize Mr. Han's teachings, lighting warms and softens, reflecting his growing emotional stability and confidence. Interior lighting is used to create intimacy, particularly in scenes of personal instruction or reflection. Mr. Han's apartment, for instance, is lit softly with warm tones, emphasizing it as a sanctuary of learning and emotional grounding. These choices enhance the narrative without ever drawing attention to themselves overtly, allowing viewers to experience the story emotionally and visually in tandem. Editing plays a critical role in pacing and thematic emphasis. The filmmakers deliberately avoid rapid, disjointed cuts during action sequences, choosing instead to let movements unfold in longer takes. This approach allows the audience to absorb the physicality of training, making Dre's growth feel earned and tangible. It also underscores the importance of patience and repetition, central tenets of the film's philosophy. Cross-cutting between Dre and Mei Ying's violin practice further reinforces thematic parallels between music and martial arts, drawing visual and conceptual connections that deepen the storytelling. Editors worked closely with the director to ensure these sequences maintained rhythm and coherence, balancing narrative progression with contemplative reflection. Sound design complements the visual storytelling in subtle but essential ways. Ambient sounds, such as footsteps echoing in courtyards, distant city traffic, or the rustle of clothing during practice, are meticulously layered to create an immersive environment. These details heighten the realism of each scene, allowing viewers to feel physically present alongside Dre. During training sequences, the sound of controlled breathing or the swish of movements becomes almost musical, emphasizing rhythm and discipline while drawing attention to the physical and mental focus required by martial arts. By integrating sound as a narrative element rather than a background supplement, the filmmakers reinforce the idea that every sensory input is part of the learning process. The musical score is equally deliberate, carefully calibrated to support the narrative without overpowering it. The composers employ a mix of traditional orchestral textures and subtle cultural instrumentation to reflect Dre's journey across two worlds. Music swells in moments of triumph or emotional clarity, but restraint is exercised in quieter, introspective moments, allowing silence and natural sound to carry weight. This measured approach mirrors the film's broader stylistic philosophy. Emotional resonance is built through subtle accumulation rather than dramatic emphasis. The visual language of the film also relies on symbolism and composition. Throughout Dre's training, repetitive motifs, stairs, bridges, thresholds, and vertical movements recur, reinforcing themes of progression, balance, and personal growth. The camera often frames Dre in relation to these elements, visually encoding his journey of transition and self-discovery. Even seemingly incidental details, such as the alignment of objects in Mr. Han's apartment or the symmetry of training spaces, contribute to the film's subtext, communicating structure, discipline, and the beauty of simplicity. A unique stylistic choice that defines the director's vision is the integration of environmental authenticity into cinematic storytelling. Rather than constructing artificial sets for every scene, the filmmakers embraced real locations, including bustling streets, historical landmarks, and traditional temples. This decision presented logistical challenges, such as controlling crowds, managing lighting, and ensuring continuity, but it also allowed the film to capture the texture and energy of Beijing in a way that artificial sets could not replicate. The result is a visual richness that grounds the narrative in a tangible reality while simultaneously enhancing the story's thematic resonance. Camera framing is often used to reflect relational dynamics. Scenes between Dre and Mr. Han frequently employ two shots with careful balance, visually reinforcing their growing connection and mutual respect. Conversely, encounters with Chung are framed to emphasize conflict and imbalance. Low-angle shots of Chung during moments of aggression contrast with high-angle or isolated shots of Dre, visually encoding power dynamics without explicit exposition. These deliberate compositional choices guide the audience's emotional response and subtly communicate tension and hierarchy. Another notable element is the use of slow motion and selective focus during pivotal moments. These techniques are sparingly applied, emphasizing critical beats without over-reliance on cinematic flourish. For instance, during the final tournament sequence, the camera lingers on Dre's stance, breathing, and concentration. Shallow depth of field isolates him from the surrounding environment, allowing viewers to experience the scene through his perspective. This choice heightens tension while simultaneously conveying internal focus and mastery, reinforcing the film's thematic emphasis on mental discipline alongside physical skill. Color grading further enhances the visual narrative. Early scenes feature muted, desaturated tones to convey Dre's discomfort and alienation. As he grows and internalizes his training, color palettes become richer and more vibrant, reflecting emotional warmth, confidence, and connection. Subtle shifts in hue and saturation are employed to mark transitions in mood and character development, creating a visual rhythm that parallels the story's emotional arc. The choreography of movement is also captured with cinematographic precision. Training exercises, fight sequences, and even everyday gestures are composed to emphasize clarity, rhythm, and flow. Camera angles are chosen to showcase technique rather than exaggerate action, allowing viewers to appreciate the artistry of martial arts as both physical and philosophical practice. Long takes and careful blocking ensure that each sequence feels grounded, reinforcing the narrative's authenticity and emotional stakes. Finally, the film's integration of visual and auditory storytelling demonstrates a holistic approach to cinematic craft. Every element, from camera movement to sound design, lighting to editing, composition to musical scoring, interacts cohesively to create a fully realized sensory experience. The director's vision is apparent not through overt stylistic flourishes, but through the subtle, disciplined orchestration of cinematic elements that echo the story's central philosophy. Growth, balance, and mastery emerge through patience, focus, and intentionality. In sum, the cinematic techniques and visual language of The Karate Kid are inseparable from its narrative and thematic ambitions. The film's careful use of camera work, lighting, sound, editing, and composition serves not only to immerse viewers in Dre's journey, but also to reinforce the underlying messages of discipline, emotional resilience, and cultural understanding. By aligning technical craftsmanship with storytelling purpose, the filmmakers created a cinematic experience that is both engaging and meaningful, demonstrating how visual and auditory elements can elevate a familiar story into a resonant and enduring work of art. One of the most compelling aspects of The Karate Kid lies not just in its story or technical execution, but in the palpable chemistry between its cast members, which transformed scripted interactions into emotionally resonant performances. At the heart of the film, The relationship between Dre Parker, played by Jaden Smith, and his mentor Mr. Han, portrayed by Jackie Chan, serves as the emotional anchor. From the earliest rehearsals to the final takes, their on-screen bond was shaped by a combination of professional rigor, mutual respect, and genuine human connection. Unlike some mentor-student dynamics that feel artificially staged, their relationship conveys authenticity, largely because of the rapport cultivated behind the scenes. During production, Jackie Chan took on a dual role. Not only did he portray a disciplined, wise mentor, but he also became a real-life guide for Jaden Smith. Reports from crew members indicate that Chan invested significant time in helping Smith navigate the physical demands of martial arts, while also offering advice on posture, focus, and emotional presence. These moments went beyond mere choreography. They instilled confidence and patience in Smith, creating a trust that translated seamlessly to the screen. Observers often note that Smith's performance feels rooted in lived experience. The frustration, concentration, and eventual pride displayed during training sequences reflect a genuine journey, not just an actor following directions. The chemistry extended beyond Dre and Mr. Han to encompass the supporting cast, whose interactions enriched the film's narrative depth. Taraji P. Henson, portraying Dre's mother, brought warmth and authenticity to the familial relationship, offering a grounded counterpoint to the often intense training sequences. Her interactions with Smith were characterized by playful teasing, concern, and encouragement, which helped establish a credible emotional foundation. On set, Henson reportedly encouraged improvisation, allowing Smith to explore natural reactions, further enhancing the believability of their mother-son dynamic. Maying, portrayed by Won Han, adds another layer of relational nuance. The chemistry between Jaden Smith and Won Han is understated yet impactful, reflecting the subtle evolution of young friendship and mutual respect. Behind the scenes, rehearsals for shared scenes often involved guided improvisation, with the director encouraging the young actors to find moments of natural connection within structured dialogue. These unscripted gestures, glances, pauses, small smiles, found their way into the final film, enriching the portrayal of cultural and emotional discovery. The result is a romance that feels lived in rather than constructed, allowing the audience to invest in their connection without the distraction of melodrama. Jackie Chan's approach to mentorship extended to his interactions with other cast members, particularly the young actors portraying Dre's peers and antagonists. Chan is known for his professionalism and work ethic, but on this production, he also emphasized the importance of respect and collaboration. Several cast interviews mention that Chan would take time to explain the philosophical underpinnings of martial arts, encouraging actors to internalize motivations rather than rely solely on physicality. This guidance influenced not only performances but also the atmosphere on set, creating a culture of patience, discipline, and mutual support that is palpable in the final film. Interestingly, the on-set camaraderie often translated into lighthearted moments that contrast with the film's serious themes. For example, training sequences that appear grueling on screen were frequently interspersed with humor and improvisation. Smith and Chan reportedly shared inside jokes during rehearsal, diffusing tension and reinforcing a sense of play alongside discipline. These glimpses of humanity and levity contributed to the authenticity of their interactions, reminding viewers that the mentorship depicted on screen mirrors the genuine guidance and friendship developed behind the camera. The antagonistic dynamic between Dre and Chang, portrayed by Jinwei Wang, is equally shaped by the actors' chemistry. While their characters are in conflict, the performers developed a rapport that allowed them to execute fight sequences with intensity without animosity. In interviews, both actors note that understanding one another's timing, rhythm, and physical limits was essential for both safety and believability. This respect ensured that even confrontational scenes conveyed tension and stakes while maintaining a sense of realism. Subtle exchanges, like fleeting expressions or physical hesitation, enhanced the emotional complexity of these confrontations, elevating them beyond mere spectacle. Behind-the-scenes stories reveal that this collaborative spirit extended to production challenges. Filming in China presented logistical and cultural hurdles, including language barriers, crowded urban locations, and tight schedules. The cast often had to adjust to unpredictable conditions, requiring patience, adaptability, and teamwork. Chan's leadership style was particularly influential in these moments, as he modeled professionalism and encouraged younger actors to remain focused despite disruptions. Anecdotes from crew interviews highlight moments where Chan would physically demonstrate a technique multiple times, ensuring clarity while maintaining morale, a practice that reinforced the connection between preparation, respect, and performance. The physical demands of the role also created unique bonding opportunities. Smith's rigorous martial arts training necessitated long hours of coordinated effort with choreographers, stunt coordinators, and fellow actors. Shared challenges, such as executing complex sequences or maintaining consistency over multiple takes, fostered camaraderie and mutual reliance. These shared experiences are reflected in the fluidity and synchronicity of fight sequences, lending them a natural rhythm and intensity that feels both cinematic and authentic. Audience reactions upon the film's release reflect the power of this cast chemistry. Early screenings in North America and Asia revealed widespread appreciation for the performances. Particularly the dynamic between Smith and Chan. Critics frequently highlighted the mentor-student relationship as the emotional backbone of the film, praising the nuanced portrayal of mutual growth, respect, and affection. Fans responded similarly, expressing admiration for the believable emotional depth that elevated the film above typical martial arts fare. Social media, reviews, and word-of-mouth discussions emphasized the relatability of Dre's journey, as well as the compelling presence of Chan's restrained yet powerful performance. Over time, audience appreciation has evolved to recognize the subtleties of these interactions. Whereas initial reactions often focused on the action sequences or the novelty of a remake, deeper engagement with the film highlights how interpersonal dynamics drive the narrative. Dre's evolution, Mr. Han's quiet mentorship, and the layered tensions with supporting characters create an enduring resonance, demonstrating that the film's emotional impact is inseparable from beats and subtle gestures. Won Han has discussed the importance of rehearsal and improvisation in creating natural interactions with Smith, emphasizing that patience and observation were key to capturing authentic moments. Even Junwei Wang has reflected on how the respectful rapport with Smith allowed antagonistic scenes to retain tension without devolving into caricature, illustrating the nuanced interplay between cooperation and conflict that defines compelling performances. The chemistry and interactions were not limited to the performers themselves. Directors, choreographers, and cinematographers worked closely with the actors to ensure that physicality and emotion were inseparable. For instance, fight choreography was often designed to highlight character development, requiring actors to integrate narrative intention with technical precision. This holistic approach ensured that every interaction, whether combative or tender, reinforced the story's emotional and thematic arc. Audiences also responded strongly to the film's portrayal of mentorship and personal growth, seeing echoes of their own experiences in the relationships depicted. Parents and children, teachers and students, and even peers noted that the bond between Dre and Mr. Han offered a model of guidance grounded in respect, patience, and empathy. The universality of this dynamic helped the film resonate across cultures, contributing to its commercial success and enduring popularity. Even small interactions between secondary characters left impressions that enriched the film's reception. Supporting cast members, including schoolmates and friends, were praised for bringing texture and authenticity to the social environment surrounding Dre. Their performances reinforced the challenges and rewards of navigating unfamiliar social landscapes, offering subtle yet meaningful context for the protagonist's journey. These layered performances highlight the importance of ensemble chemistry in creating a believable world, where every interaction contributes to the narrative's emotional weight. In retrospect, the combination of cast chemistry, on-set mentorship, collaborative problem-solving, and nuanced performance choices elevates The Karate Kid beyond a simple martial arts story. The authenticity and depth of relationships on screen are rooted in real-world interactions and mutual respect among the actors, reflecting a production ethos that prioritizes human connection as much as technical achievement. Audiences responded to this authenticity, initially through immediate praise for performances and, over time, through recognition of the subtle, enduring power of these on-screen relationships. Ultimately, The cast's chemistry and behind-the-scenes dynamics form an integral part of the film's identity. The interplay between training, mentorship, conflict, and friendship is not merely scripted. It emerges from a collaborative, human-centered production process that bridges culture, age, and experience. This organic development of relationships is central to the film's lasting impact, demonstrating that the heart of The Karate Kid lies as much in its performers and their interactions as in its story, choreography, or visual spectacle.